Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, May 22nd, and it is a pretty nice day here. A little bit of, intermittent clouds, so as usual, the lighting may come and go. We'll see. I'm kind of looking up going, I think we're okay for a bit, but we'll see. I have waited so that the lawn mowers have died down because we are finally in that season. It is the Victoria Day long weekend here in Canada. So Victoria Day in honor of Queen Victoria of England, who is the second longest reigning monarch of Britain. So yeah, this is also notably usually the weekend where people are beginning to be safe to actually start planting things outside. I had a good chuckle yesterday when I was listening to the weather report, because even the weather person was like going, okay, after today, Saturday, it's probably going to be okay to plant. And if people had started planting earlier, they were probably going to have to cover up their plants last night because there was a frost warning in effect. Yep, but I think we are turning the corner. So I did this week go out and get some plants. They are safely sitting here in the sunroom. So they're getting their sunshine, they're staying warm. And probably this is the week that they will start to go outside. Yeah, typical for where I live. My grandmother was a really great gardener. My mom is she's pretty decent. I am not the best gardener. But I have certainly learned that where I live, I don't even think about putting things into the ground until after the Victoria Day long weekend. It's just too risky. Anyway, that's the update from here. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. This is a channel about cross stitching and the stitching that I've done over the past week. And if you are a returning viewer, as always, thank you so much for spending your time with me and coming back and watching my stitching journey. I have a pile of stuff over here. Okay. Let's talk about some comments on last week's video. So thank you so much for all of the lovely comments on Fairy Winter Dream and my finish of her. Yes, I love her. And I love her on that fabric. I think it's one of my best fabric choices for that. It really makes it look different compared to how the picture looks. And so I'm thrilled with my fabric choice on that. I laughed. I don't know if it's really Hedden or H. Eden. She left a comment. She has commented before where she talks about it was going to take her, she was on her third try trying to get to the end because she was sort of watching it in spurts. And I kind of laughed. I went, have at her, watch in spurts. I myself have been known to take 5 or 6 episodes to get through some of the longer videos. Sometimes even on the shorter ones, I have to stop intermittently and do something else. So don't you worry about that. We all have things going on in our lives, and my video should not be ranked up near the top of what has to get accomplished, because don't worry, it's on YouTube. As far as I know, YouTube isn't going away, which means it will be around for you to watch later when it's more convenient. Betsy also left a comment which was really fantastic. She left a question and then a couple of comments. So the question was, why do some of the other floss tubers talk about not going back, only going forward, and not going back and fixing their mistakes or ripping things out? And as always, it's stitcher's preference. I will remind you, I had that friend who on my sampler stitches said to me, really, I think you're overthinking this. Like, just make a decision and keep going forward. And that is my personality, right? So yes, I tend to overthink things. Yes, I may tend to overanalyze 27 Excel spreadsheets and planning 5 years in advance and changing everything. That's totally me. So when you hear some of the floss tubers say, don't go backwards, only go forward, to them, I think it's a case of, if it doesn't bother you enough, you don't need to spend the time going back and fixing it. If you know, if you are the type of person where you can look at something and you can see that one stitch that's really wrong and it drives you nuts, my answer is go back and fix it, because it's going to drive you nuts. And every time you look at it, you're going to see it. And I think back to a piece that I stitched for my mother called Home Again. And every time I look at that piece, I can see the mistake that I made. Now, when I spotted the mistake, it of course was graciously after it had been stretched and framed and all of that stuff. And so at that point, it's like there's no going back and fixing it. Now, it doesn't detract from the picture as far as I'm concerned. I just remember walking into my mother's house because she was, you know, she'd gone and she picked it up from the framers, she'd hung it up in the house, and she was like, come over and see the picture and see if you like it. And it was hanging in the kitchen. And as I was walking into the kitchen from the door, I could see it all the way across the room. And I went, and my mother was like, what? What is wrong? And my answer was like, I missed it. And again, so there were two birds in the sky. I didn't get them in. It was too late. It's framed, whatever. It's totally fine. But if I had noticed it before it had gotten framed, I would have fixed it. And I always look at it and go, I missed the birds. I stitched the exact same piece for my aunt, because she loved it as well, so I stitched it for her as well. And that's how I can tell the one that I did for my mom apart from the one that I did for my aunt, because my mom's is missing the birds and my aunt's is not missing the birds, because apparently second time through I really knew that the birds were supposed to go in. So if it bothers you, absolutely spend the time, go back and fix it. If it doesn't bother you, don't fix it. I think back to some of the comments when I took out all of the beads and I restarted the crown, right? I think for anybody else, even if you had looked at it closely, you probably would have had a hard time figuring out where it was off. The answer is it was driving me nuts. And I wasn't enjoying stitching because I knew everything wasn't lining up correctly and things were off a little bit. And so, you know, to anybody else, they would have said, just keep going from where you are, it'll be fine. And for a lot of people, that's fine. If it doesn't bother you, yes, don't go back and fix it. If it's driving you nuts, like me, then I ripped the whole thing out and restarted. And that's, again, that goes to my stitching style, that's my personality, that's how I look at my stitching, but everybody's different. There are people out there who like stitching with yellow on brown fabric. Befuddles me. But as long as they're happy and they're enjoying it, that's great for them. If it's driving you nuts, go back and fix it. I also laughed. She made a comment about some people's color choices are and yeah, there are some color choices out there that I would say don't resonate with me, and they would certainly not be color combinations that I would ever choose to stitch. But it's also the same way how some people put outfits together in their color combinations, where I go like, wow, I wouldn't put those together. But as long as they're happy with it, I'm thinking back, I was watching somebody, this was a while ago, and they went, I know these colors aren't the best color choices, and that's not the point. I'm picking colors that make me happy. And it's not because their end goal was like, I want to have the best looking piece. It's like, I'm just stitching this for fun. And I'm stitching with colors that make me happy. And, you know, is this going to be my best piece ever where I go like, oh my goodness, look at this. This is the most awesome thing ever. No, but the answer is I want to be able to sit down and pick color, just have colors that are involved in this that make me happy and enjoy the stitch. What happens to it at the end of the stitch is utterly irrelevant. And again, that's totally fine. If just stitching with these random colors make you happy, that's great. Stitching is a hobby. Try to do something that's good for your mental health. And if it works for you, that's great. And again, she didn't care what the end result. She had no grandiose plans to do anything with it at the end. She's like, it's just going to be a piece that I stitched with colors that made me happy. And again, those are some of the differences also between process stitchers and product stitchers. Like if everything is about what the end product is and what it's going to look like and what you're going to do with it, you're a product stitcher. But there are people where it's all about the process. And it's like, I just like the act of stitching and and how I feel when I'm stitching, and it's a mental palette cleanser, and it's something entirely different and creative and all these things. And quite frankly, they don't care what happens to the piece at the end. It can go sit in a drawer for all they care. They're more on the process end. I tend to be more of a process stitcher, as you can see by how many fully finished objects you've seen on this channel. I've finished the stitching. I have not fully finished many. And again, it's not that I don't want to get them fully finished, but for me it's more important that I get the stitching done as opposed to having them fully finished. So I'm an 80-20 stitcher. I'm 80% about the process and 20% about the product. Because of course it's me, I can't be fully anything. And the third comment, which is her best one, I laughed at this. So Betsy, this was awesome. She said she'd looked into flights to Calgary so she could join in with the stitch and get up, but she would need to sell one of her grandchildren to get here. So thank you for checking into it. I totally support your decision not to sell one of your grandchildren. Traveling to Calgary to stitch with me and others who watch this channel, it's really not worth selling off the grandchild, but thank you for the comment. That was really funny. I enjoyed that one. So about the getting together, so some of you have sent in your emails that you're around in your dates, and I have not sent a response email just yet, so if you're wondering if you, I never got a response, maybe it didn't go through. It did go through. I'm just trying to get a couple of things organized so that I can send out an email back to everyone simultaneously to sort of say, here's sort of the plans, here's where we're at, etc., etc. I just sort of wanted to get it set up as a group email distribution list sort of from the get-go. If you're also concerned about your email addresses, don't worry about that. I will be sending out the email with everyone other than myself in the BCC line. It's just a privacy thing. If you're choosing to give your email address to somebody else who's there, that's entirely up to you, but I will not be distributing them, so everyone will be a BCC on that email, and that should hopefully be going out later this week, because I'm hoping to have a time firmed up with the library and get it scheduled and etc., etc. Thank you to those of you who also said you'd be interested in a Zoom. So hopefully we can actually add that into the mix. I think that would be great. I've sort of been noting where people are sort of chiming in for Zoom, because it does mean multiple time zones. So I need to get my act organized around sort of what time works with the different time zones so that it works reasonably decent for most of them. Maybe not all, sorry about that, but check back later. So yeah, thank you for the Zoom interest, because that adds another batch in there, and I will be commenting on that as we go forward. So again, thank you for your interest in getting together. I think it's always great to have stitchers get together. So yes, for those of you that sent the email, I should be getting an email back out to the group later this week. Okay. There's only one other comment, and we'll deal with that when we get to the piece. So let's get into my stitching. All right, so as expected, I had a big chuckle because I finished this on Monday. So this is my May Cottage of the Month from Country Cottage Needleworks. And I was talking to a friend yesterday where I said, the funny thing is I already put the chart back. So I don't have the front cover, but it's okay because I finished it. So here is my May Cottage of the Month fully complete. The color changes that I did on this are in the notes section below. So the things that I added in another color. So if you recall from when I brought this up the first time, I talked about that I changed my colors here in the house, certainly the darker of them, because the one that was called for didn't show up as a contrast. But I did find that the darker one that I used here in the house I felt was too dark for the flowers. So I used the called for the flower. I just didn't use it for the house. So I now have 3 of these sort of aqua turquoisey blues Two are called for when I've added in all by my very self, and the only place I've added it into is in the house, and I also used it for the word May. But I will say those bees are, you know, were annoying as all get out. So I think there's a total of 10 stitches in there, done in 3 colors. And there's a lot of them. There's 9 of them. Actually, I was having a moment going, there's 9. It's like, oh yeah, there's the other one over here. It's like, wait, there's supposed to be 9. I could only see 8. Yes, all 9 of them are in there. So that's completed. That's great. Again, so I'm keeping up with my overall objective for the year of getting each cottage stitched in the month that they are. So May is later in May than I was hoping, but May is now complete. Okay. I also worked on my sampler of stitches. So this is the series of 9 charts by the Drawn Thread, which I'm doing as a stitch along with Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy, with the objective of getting 1 letter accomplished every 2 weeks, so that by the end of the year we should have the whole series of 9 charts finished. So I am working on the letter K. So this is what this looks like. So if you'll remember last week I had started on this stitch, I want to say Kensington. Yeah, I was right. The Kensington stitch, which I did not like, so I stopped that. So my goal for this week was really to get the cluster block finished and hopefully start working on these other 2 pieces. So where did I get to? So I've scrolled up. So I did get my cluster blocks all done, and I got all of my eyelets done in here. So there's eyelets in each of these corners, and then Algerian eyelets sort of making a design here in the center. So this is, I was thinking about Betsy's comment saying, like, I would say 3 of the 17 eyelets I'm not overly thrilled with, but again, I'm going, by the time you stand back, and the objective on this is to get this framed, nobody's going to see it. And I honestly, if somebody's in looking at it closely enough saying, I'm not sure I like all of your eyelets, as far as I'm concerned, that's on them. This is a case of it was good enough for me, and I kept going. I will say that there was one eyelet that it was very close to the end where I was just like, nope, I'm not happy with it. And in that case, I actually unstitched one of the eyelets so I could get back to the previous one and fix it and go forward. So again, even in the eyelets, I've got a balance of some that I was like going, it's fine. They're not awesome. They're not my best eyelets, but they're okay. And there was one where I was like going, I can't live with that. And I had to go back and fix it. So again, it just depends. I did not get over, so I unstitched the Kensington stitch that I had started, but I did not do, didn't do a second round of that or get started on the knit stitch. So this is the week where hopefully K should get finished, and I think I can get K finished because it's really just this Kensington stitch and these 5 rows of knit stitch, and then get started working on L. L is a bit of a bigger piece, a bit of a bigger stitch. Sorry, let's move things around. So proportionately, there's just a little more stitching going on in this, so I would really like to at least start making a dent in L so that I can get this finished in the next couple of weeks. I keep saying to myself, I really do need to get ahead, because I know that there are going to be some weeks coming up, certainly over the next 3 months, where I may not have as much stitching time to work on this. So I need to get ahead. I need to get ahead. So Quill Pen said that she's only on G and she's really far behind. And my answer is, you're not really far behind. Everybody has things going on in life. And I would always say generally a lot of life things should take precedence over your stitching. I totally acknowledge that. Sometimes there are a few life things where you should maybe take a little bit of a break and get in some stitching, but I don't like when I don't like saying we're behind. It's like you're stitching, the stitching schedule is being adjusted. And I certainly do that regularly on my stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So yeah, so got some stuff in. I always laugh because I'm always a little bit slow on my eyelets. They're not hard to do and blah, 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 but I just have, I work on them slower than I stitch other things. So I unstitched the Kensington, got my cluster block in. So Kensington and knit stitch, and then K will be finished, and then I can get started working on L. So not too bad. Okay. So what else did I work on this week? Well, this is, since we are working on, I am doing a Mirabilia Mania. So Mirabilia / Nora Corbett, because it's the same designer. The one that I was working on this week was one of my Christmas Eve Couriers that is a previous start. This was a whip. So I have been working on Vixen from the Christmas Eve Courier set. This is a series of charts. There are 9 reindeer charts. There is also a sleigh chart. I have all of them in my collection. And I made pretty good progress this week. It's still on the Q-snap and I'm not taking it out. I will tell you why in just a second. So there is my Vixen so far. I am doing this on a 28 count Denim Jobelan. I am using most of the called for colors, but not all of them, because that would be weird, right? So I'm just going to hold this up a little closer. So there's where my Vixen is at. You can see that I've started the beading. So this is a case where there are 2 colors of Krynic. So the snow is all done in Krynic, and these gold boxes on the top and bottom borders are done with Krynic. There's also Whisper in the tail. I have not fluffed it up, but I had a good chuckle because I was remembering somebody asked me for tips about Whisper. And yep, I followed my own tips. I was working very slowly as I was coming through because it's an unusual fiber to stitch with. It feels weird. And I felt like I was picking some random fluff off for like the rest of the week once I got the Whisper in. I've done all the back stitching. So a couple of things on this. This is I got hung up on this one when I was stitching it even last year because I ran into a problem. So this entire border is stitched with, so the called for is a Caron Waterlilies number 204, which is called Umbria. And so I, of course, had ordered the Umbria. And when I was looking, I went, that I can't use that. So this is what Umbria looks like. And I had looked in several stores. I had looked at this Umbria, you know, all from Caron Waterlilies, because sometimes you go, maybe it's just a weird dye lot. I have looked at it 3 or 4 times in 3 or 4 different batch lots. It always looks like this. And I just went, I can't use this. It doesn't go with my piece. It's looking not too terribly bad on camera. In real life, everybody who looks at it kind of goes, no. Because the green, the green is just it's far too yellow undertoned to go with the rest of it. which then of course sent me on the debacle of trying to find something that I could replace it with. And I was having a really, really big struggle. You know, I was looking at things in the store and looking at master lists online. And then I finally did a deep dive into my stash and found the answer. So I am using Needle Necessities. So it has this kind of a tag, Needle Necessities 151. And if you're out there going, I don't even know what Needle Necessity is. Needle Necessities is the former brand name of Threadworks. And I believe on the Threadworks homepage that they do have a conversion list if you're looking for Needle Necessities colors to find out what the current color number is under Threadworks. So that's what I ended up using. I think it's I'm not going to hold the thread up again because you've got the border. So all of the border is stitched. All of the border is stitched with that Needle Necessities 151. And I think it came out great. It was a very interesting challenge on this one because it was all of the border as well as, so it is generally used somewhere in sort of in here. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But so I think it's worked out great. I'm going to keep that attached in this project. I will also say that so this leads me into stash-quisitions, because the funny thing when I got to, you know, so once you get all the stitching done and all well, I was looking ahead. I knew that I was going to hopefully get all the stitching done. But I got to the end and I was looking at the bead choices, and I had all of the Mill Hill treasures. Those were in the project bag, but I was missing 2 of the beads. And then I sort of looked them up online and went, it's weird that I don't have them in my stash. And it's, anyway, they're not in the bag. They're not in my stash. Why don't I have them? And then I looked them up online and went, oh, I know what the problem is. Because I had looked at them originally and went, I can't use those colors. Those are wrong. So the color that is used here, the called for color that is used in all of these is actually quite orangey. It's hard to tell on the cover photo, but in real life, it's quite orangey. And again, I remember when I looked it up online, I went, oh yeah, I remember why. That's exactly why I went, and not that. And this is the color that it had the most of. And so I was like, until I fix that, I don't really know what I need to do to fix the other color. So the funny thing is how I fixed it is the called for color that's supposed to be used in this outer border. So it's used sporadically around here is Mill Hill Magnifica Beads 10071, which looks like this. And so I actually swapped that in and said, I'm going to use that for the primary color because I think that will coordinate well enough. And then I ended up getting some Delica beads, DB105. So they're a darker color. And that's what I'm going to use in the border because I feel like they coordinate a little bit better with the sort of dark plummy brown that's part of this Needle Necessities. So both of those beads were acquisitions this week. And it was interesting because when I was at the shop, so I specifically went to the Stitching Corner in Cochrane because they carry things like Delica beads, so they don't just carry Mill Hill. So I figured if I went out there, it would give me options. And so we were talking about this, and we were looking what they had in stock, and you know, we'd sort of looked at the Mill Hill options and some conversions from DMC colors into Mill Hill beads. And anyway, it's interesting. We'll talk about that in a second too, because sometimes I don't agree with when they say DMC color number converts to this color number in a Mill Hill bead, which is funny because one of the ladies in the shop was like, "I know, I think that's actually a decent conversion," and I was like, not as far as I'm concerned. But again, that's how I see color, and everybody's different. Anyway, so those are the colors that I've picked out for fixing my beads. I was really hoping, I stayed up late last night because I was really hoping to get it finished, and I didn't. I am about 85 combination of beads and treasures left to go, and then this will be finished. So very, very close. It will be done for next week. But happy with how it's coming along. This is another example of there are errors in this and I'm leaving them. So I was looking at one of my stitches and I went, that's so weird. The bottom leg is fine, but the top leg ended up being over three fabric threads instead of 2. And I don't know how I missed it, but it was in the middle of a bunch of other things. And I went, by the time I put in the stitch beside it, no one's ever going to tell. So that's again, that's an example where I know it's wrong and I didn't want to unstitch all the way back to where it had occurred, and went, by the time I put in the stitch beside it, it will be fine. And no one but me will ever be able to find it. I will also tell you, and I'll hold it up close, that there are 2 extra stitches in what I've got stitched that shouldn't be there. There's 2 I screwed up and just went, and again, but it was a case where I went, I don't care enough to take it out. I know where they are. I will challenge you. If you care enough, and lots of you will go like, who cares about looking for the mistake? That's totally fine. There's no reason why you should do. But for those of you who like a spot the difference thing, if you want to look for it, feel free to have a look and tell me where you think the 2 stitches are that shouldn't be there. As far as I'm concerned, no one but me is really going to know unless somebody else is standing beside me who's stitched this exact one, and then they may know. But again, there's examples where, yeah, there's 2 mistakes in here so far, and I'm fine. I'm not going back and taking them out because I'm okay with it. If it were driving me nuts, that's a different thing. But this one, I'm fine, and I'm leaving the mistakes in. So that is my Vixen. I thought for fun while we were here, whoops, that board should have stayed back. I thought while we were here I would haul out a previous finish. I really should, invest in getting a few more boards so I don't have to put the pauses in, but anyway, so here is the other Christmas Eve Courier that I have finished. I think this is a Comet. Don't quote me on it. The actual name of this chart will be down below. As I said, I do have all of the charts in my stash, and I am planning on picking away at them. So I am doing all of the reindeer as well as the sleigh are all going to be done on 28 count Denim Jobelan. And I'm now looking this saying, I really think I should hold up. Do I have any more of those purple things? Probably not. Now, I'm not very far along because, actually I'm having a moment going, I feel like they're different sizes. It's all the same fabric, but I'd say clearly this one looks a little smaller. I'll have to check into that, see what the stitch count is. But there are my 2, one complete, one very nearly complete. You'll be seeing this again next week because it should be complete by then. So 2 out of 10. I'm 20% of the way through my projects. Just having a moment looking at this going, I didn't put my initials on this one. Interesting. I'll have to go back and fix that. Fortunately, in my X-Stitch app, it will have the finishing date and year on it, so I can add that in. There's one other thing I was going to show about this. I don't know where it went. There it is. So the other thing, again, because this is a series, and so a lot of the colors do carry over from one pattern into the next. So the good thing about when so once I finish this, what's going to happen is this will go into the bag with the other previous finishes that are not complete or not fully finished. And I will not fully finish these until I get the entire series done, until I get all 10 charts done. I'm not finishing any of them. I need all of them complete, and then I'll figure out what I'm doing from a fully finished perspective. So we're a long way away from that happening. But what will happen is once I finish stitching on this, I will immediately turn around and kit up the next reindeer that's going to get worked on. It's not going to get started this month, but I will kit it up and have it ready to go, because I keep the threads. I just move one set of threads into, it stays in the bag, because again, there's so much overlap between the charts. And particularly now that I have solved my problem about what this over-dyed fiber is going to be, so this Needle Necessities for sure has to stay in that bag, because this will be called for in, you know, some of the other charts. So now that I have a decision that I'm happy with, it needs to stay on there. It needs to go also on the ring in the Land of the Specialties. But again, as soon as Vixen is finished, I will kit up another one. And the kitting up will be reasonably easy, because I will have most of the fibers ready to go. I just need to see if they call for any extras. I should have a baggie in my Mirabilia. I have a bag where I've sort of kitted up treasures and beads and all that kind of stuff. So there should be a baggie in there that has the name of which, and I can choose whichever one I want to work on next. I'll choose that one. The fabric is already cut and serged. So I just need to put that piece in there and put in the beads and see if I'm missing anything else, and then it will be ready to go. So these live in the bag, again, because there's just so much overlap between the charts. And it saves me from, you know, having to pull from stash or put it away and then re-pull it out, you know, when I start working on, you know, the next one, which is probably going to be sometime next year as far as my scheduling says. It won't be till sometimes next year, but, you know, as long as, if I kit it up right away, then it's one less thing for me to think about. And it means as I'm, you know, working through my 2023 plan, it will be another project that is ready to go. So there's that. I do actually also keep the Umbria in there, just because it reminds me going, this is the bad choice. All right. And then I realized as I was working on that last week is what I really should have done is I should have held it up last week so that you could see where I started from. So the part where I started from is I had sort of this big bow and the back half of the reindeer and about 3/4 of this leg and a little bit of the outside of the head. So all the rest of that, as well as the beading and back stitching, was accomplished this week, including a trip to a store to find the beads. So what I'm planning on working on this next week is, as I discussed at the beginning of May in my May plans, is I now, so I will hopefully by tomorrow, hopefully it won't extend past Monday, hopefully by tomorrow, Vixen will be done. So I will have then successfully finished Fairy Winter Dream, and I will have successfully finished Vixen from the Christmas Eve Couriers series. So my next plan, I still have a start planned out for this month, but before I get my new start, I need to put some time in on April's Blue Diamond, which was my May start last year. So this is a Mirabilia, so this is bigger. So what's the difference in size? So Vixen, which is a Nora Corbett, and again, so that's the difference, you know, how do you tell the difference between a Mirabilia and a Nora Corbett? Nora Corbetts are small, Mirabilias are large. I was watching Rachel Q where she was talking about, she was a little nervous starting about a Mirabilia, and my answer is don't be worried about it. It's not, there's nothing more difficult between a Nora Corbett and a Mirabilia. The difference is purely in size. This is a bigger design than this. In terms of style and stitching, everything else, it is exactly the same. This is a smaller one, this is a larger one. That's it. Don't let it put you off. So the stitch count on Vixen is 80 by 100. The stitch count on April's Blue Diamond is 195 by 268, so quite a bit bigger. Like 2.5 times as tall by, you know, pretty much 2.5 times as wide. Anyway. So that's April's Blue Diamond. So I decided this week I would be smart and I would at least pull it out so you could see it. What is my starting point? And I'm having a moment going, I don't remember what I'm stitching this on. I will put it in the notes below. I'm pretty sure it's a Picture This Plus. I want to say Ariel, but that may not be correct. Anyway. So this is where I got to last year. So all of her, except for the beading, all of the bottom of her dress is done. And was working on sort of this, you know, the bottom flounce of the dress. So hopefully I will get the bottom flounce of the dress finished by the end of the month and start working on these flowers around the bottom there. And same with Fairy Winter Dream. So this center part, which is this design, all of that, you know, you can see on here is empty space because it's all done in beads yet again. So there's, you know, the random spots up top and certainly this big design. So my goal for, before I get my new start in, I have decided I'm going to follow Stitchin' Mommy's concept. I want to get 1,000 stitches into the bottom part of this dress, and then I can start my new Nora Corbett, and it is a Nora Corbett. So it is, it's half kitted. I have all of the threads pulled. I have the idea for what I want the fabric to be. I just haven't made a final decision, but I'm going to have that final decision by tomorrow because my expectation is I will be starting that next week. So next week you should be seeing progress on April's Blue Diamond as well as a new start. All right. And then while I was digging around in the bag of things, while I was digging around in the bags of finished stitching objects which are not fully finished, and yeah, there's a bag of them. In fact, there's more than one bag of them. Because I went into the bag and went, I just need to pull the design that is done on 28 count Denim Blue Jobelan. And then I laughed because I hauled one out and went, well, that is done on Denim Blue Jobelan, but it's not one of the Couriers. So I thought while we were doing this, I would haul it out anyway, because I really like this one too. So this is a previous finish. This is I think it's called Midnight Blossom by Patricia Ann Designs. So this, I finished this probably, I want to say in 2020. This was, I'm pretty sure this was my New Year New Start for 2020, and got it finished in the month of January. I love how this looks on this fabric. I will caution you, I think this chart is out of print, so it's not that you can't find it. You may need to look on eBay, destash sites, etc., etc. This is one where she does a lot of drawn thread work, and so that's what these middle borders are, where you've had to sort of, you know, remove some threads to create the designs that are being created through your stitching. And again, so specialty stitches, pulled work. Yeah, but I love this one too. So I laughed because I reached into the bag and went, denim, I see the denim, hauled out the Denim Jobelan and went, oop, not Christmas Eve Couriers, something else. So I thought I would show this one anyway. So there it is. Yep. One of these days I need to get my act together and get some fully finished items pulled. But I thought I would show those. So those are my two previous finishes. All right. Stashquisitions. There's a bunch of them because I picked up a couple of things. So I already showed you the two colors of beads that I picked up. I also picked up a third one. This was so this is Magnifica 10116. Same thing. I specifically went to the store because I was looking for a DMC match for something, and you know, like I say, you can find conversion charts online that say if DMC X is equivalent to this color of a Mill Hill bead. There's not conversions for every color, and in some colors they have multiple options. So I needed to go into the store and have a look at them. And so I picked these up. I need these for a project that's going to get worked on this week. So I picked these up. There might be something else to see next week if everything goes well. So I picked those up, and like I say, they pulled some of the options that were listed as conversions, and I looked at them and went, no. And in fact, I did make the comment where I said, as far as I was concerned, I would never have said that some of those bead colors were conversions for the DMCs that I was looking at. So everything's different. I also picked up the Spring 2022 Stony Creek magazine. Again, I get my Stony Creek magazine from the Stitching Corner because that's where I've always gotten my Stony Creeks from for years and years and years and years and years. And the one that I like in here most particularly you'd think I would flag it, is this one. Music Speaks. They've done it on an 18 count piece of Ann cloth. I don't think I'm going to do it on 18 count Ann cloth. I do have Ann cloth in my stash. I don't know that I've got a one square piece, but we will debate that as we get closer. I will be keeping the black as black. These shades of gray, which are done in 451, 452, 453. I'm not planning on doing that in gray. So the notes and these top words here will turn into something else. But yes, when words fail, music speaks. Okay, so the other order that I got in, this was, oh yeah, I also picked up some buttons. Basic buttons. Okay, so the other order I picked up, so I had ordered some Q-snap replacement clamps. One of the Q-snap sets that I inherited, I had used it earlier this year and discovered that they were, that the two of the clamps were cracked, and actually some of my fibers were snagging on them. So I went, I like the Q-snap, I just need to replace the clamps. So I got the got 2 replacement clamps. They come as a set of 2. This is exactly what I need. I only needed 2. So I got those. These ones you will laugh at. So I ordered, when we were talking about Rosewood Manor back in December of last year, and I was going through my collection, I said that I have all of the seasonal Quakers from Rosewood Manor. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And I decided I should probably get some of those Valdani sets. I had, unusually for me, I had gotten the charts, but I had not gotten the thread packs for a variety of reasons. But I've now made the decision that I needed to get them. So one, because I had seen Caron Waterlilies talking about, you know, there are supply chain issues with Valdani. You know, it's not that you won't be able to get them, you know, it's just going to be slower. As well as we're noticing across the board in a whole variety of things, costs are going up, inflation is occurring, shipping charges are going up exponentially, and I just went, bite the bullet and get the Valdani sets now. And again, so so I ordered these from Traditional Stitches, and I was like, if Traditional Stitches doesn't have them all right now, you know, am I totally willing to wait till they can get them? Sure, because it's not like I'm planning on stitching any of these this year. So, but I just decided that I needed to put them into my stash. I also know that Evertote with the Leo and Roxy floss, they have a Leo and Roxy conversion for these sets. And I did look at that. They don't have conversion for all of them. I think right now they have, the only set that they've got going is the winter one. They are planning on doing Leo and Roxy conversions for the other 3 seasons. But as far as I know, the only one that they currently have fully converted is the winter Quaker. So I did look at that, but I priced it out. And I went, it was going to cost me 38% more to get the Leo and Roxy conversion than it would be to get the Valdani sets. So 38% more in my books. You may sort of go, you're buying 3 sets. Are you really budget conscious? And the answer is yes, because I went with the Valdani ones because I didn't want to pay the extra almost 40%. So this is, I didn't get all 4 of them. I got 3 of them. Yep, they're in the order. So I got the Spring Quaker set. So I have the chart, and I actually do have the called for Valor Picture This Plus fabric that I have. The only color in here that I'm debating is I might need to change this. I'll have to see how these get used. I think this, if it's used in sort of some, you know, check back. And again, I think that's originally when I was getting these, I wasn't 100% certain. But I've seen enough of these stitched up, I might actually stick with them. I also got Summer, because Carolyn Zook has been stitching on this. And originally I was only going to get 2. She's the one, and her stitching made me say, get the 3rd one. So I got the 3rd one again. Not sure about this color down here, but, you know, stay tuned. Again, Summer is probably going to be the 3rd one that I work on as far as my stitching plan goes. So, you know, we're ways off from deciding that, but I figured I would get them while the getting was good. And then Winter Quaker. And so for those 3, like I say, I do have the chart. I do have the Picture This Plus, the called for Picture This Plus fabrics in stock for all 3 of those charts. So I now have the specialty fibers for that. And if you're wondering why I only have 3 out of the 4, I have the chart for 4. I do not have the called for Picture This Plus fabric for that. And I wasn't going to order the called for Valdani pack, because autumn is the one where I think is most likely to be the one where I want to make more changes. So I figured 3 out of the 4, that's going to keep me going for a while. And we'll get to autumn when we actually get to autumn. So I have the chart for autumn, but I do not have either the fabric, the Picture This Plus fabric for it, or the Vol 90 pack, and I'm totally fine with that. Chart is good enough for me at this point in time. So the other things that I picked up, I had a back ordered skein of some Auvert Soie d'Alger. This is 3442. And I did order some floss. So I have 2 skeins of floss. This is for something in particular that I'm planning on. And we will talk more about floss when we get there. But I ordered it. I've got it ready to be kitted up with its project, which the pattern is actually right over there. So again, this is part of my 2023 stitching plan. And again, so I'm picking away at things. I also picked up a large piece. So I picked up a yard of 40 count Verdal in white. Again, this is for my 2023 stitching plan. So now this is more than I need, but once I got to the point where I needed more than a fat half, I probably could have got it done on a fat half plus a quarter, and I just went, why are you being so ridiculous? Just buy the yard, and you know, I'm expecting I will have probably just over a fat quarter left when I'm done cutting this out, because one of the things that I need to work on is figuring out the most efficient use of this fabric, and get my pieces cut out for that. And again, so this is for 2023 stitching. And then this was a chart that I had ordered. This was from Nashville, so I don't know exactly when it came in, and you know, this again, I was not overly anxious that I had to go out and get this. I went out and got the package when they told me they had a package ready for me. This is from Pickle Barrel Designs, called Queen of Everything. I can't read it backwards in the screen. What's a queen without a king? Well, historically speaking, more powerful. Believe it or not, I will be keeping some of the goldish colors on here. So queen, yes. Crown, yes. Even the fleur-de-lis, yes. I don't know that all of this is going to stay that color. Check back later. I do like the concept of like a royal purple and gold that tends to be used quite a bit with royalty things. So some version of this. This is a not too big, 98 by 103. They did it on a 25 count opalescent white. Well, we know did I say 28? I meant 25? 25 count white opalescent Lugana is what they stitched it on. I can see me doing on an opalescent white Lugana, but not in 25 count. So stay tuned. So that's in my stash. I haven't placed any other orders yet, and the comment is on yet. I've got 2 more orders that I've got cooking in my head. They have not been placed yet. They will be coming. The timing of the placement of those orders is going to probably not be till June. Just, you know, how I'm working things out in my world. Okay. So those are my stash acquisitions. And now we're going to briefly get into my the topic for this week, which is planning for June. This is not going to be a very long segment, because the plans for June are all over the place. Clearly, my cottage of the month will be coming out. I am doing some traveling in June, so I will tell you right now. I thought I had it. I've lost the date again. Let's see. I love when I can't find things on my devices. All right, June. Good grief. So I am doing some traveling in June. So here's a little bit of forewarning for you. The week of, so June 12th, I am currently not expecting that I will be doing a video that week. I've had a little bit, I'm pretty sure that I can't get one done on June 12th. There's a possibility I might get one done on June 12th, but I'm giving you fair warning. If you're waiting for a video on June 12th and one doesn't arrive, don't be surprised. I might be able to get one filmed. I might get one filmed later that week. So if you're trying to keep up, don't forget to hit the subscribe and the notification bell, and then you'll get a notification when I get a video up. But I will say, prepare yourself that if you're expecting a video on June 12th, that the answer is going to be no, you're not going to see one. So this is where, so the planning that I'm doing for June is like one. So I know that I'm working on my June cottage. My June, I have a June start planned. So in my schedule of starts for 2022, I have a June start planned. I am on iteration like 7 of what that start is going to be. I've had several where I've said, I'm going to start this, I'm going to change and start that, and then it's going to be, no, I'm going to change and start that. None of those got kitted up, but we're really coming up to it. And really the start is because I want to start something while I'm away. So we're running out of time. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be that first week. So June 5th, there will be a video. I will be here. I'm expecting to do a video then. Hopefully for sure by then I will have figured out my new start. I'll probably maybe even tell you what that new start's going to be. But then I'm traveling after that. So it'll be, it's coming down to it. I need to make a decision. But the things that are factoring into what's gumming up my June plans is that it needs to be something that is travel friendly. So don't be surprised if you see some topics in June that are like, how did I really pack for traveling with my stitching? What did I end up taking? What was my travel experience like, etc., etc. So I am planning on taking things to stitch while I am traveling, and I've got to get those sorted out. And that is, as far as planning for this week, my big planning function is that I have to get those sorted out and get them ready and kitted up so that they're ready to go, so that they are definitively done, ready, kitted, ready to be packed. But of course, the things that are factoring into those decisions are things like, I don't want to take anything on a scroll rod. I'm not traveling for, this is not a multi-week travel. There might be a multi-week travel coming up later in the summer, which might change the things that I'm deciding to stitch with. On this one, I'm trying to keep everything that I'm doing so that I can travel with carry-on only. And again, so that factors into things like, so it can't be big projects, can't be on a scroll rod. I don't want to be taking multiple sets of Q-snaps. I only want to take one set of Q-snaps. I want to have, whether it's a Q-snap, there's a debate. Do I even take it down so I don't take a Q-snap, that I actually take a hoop? It could be that too. So I need to come up with some of those decisions, which are factoring into things, clearly, as I'm looking at my June, there are some whips that I definitively want to work on. And I debated taking those, certainly one of those whips with me on my trip. And I went, but two of the whips that were, well, one of the whips and one was a new start. And I went, I am adjusting the charts. I'm either changing things that are on the design, or I'm changing on one of them virtually all of the colors. And I went, well, you're traveling and you don't have access to all of the other things that you have when I'm stitching at home. I was like going, neither of those are good travel projects, because I don't want to, because I'm having to make decisions about design changes that I'm planning on making. And I went, those are not good travel projects. So they will hopefully get worked on later in June, but for the first part of June, they're not going to get worked on. So I need to come up with what those projects are. I need to get them kitted. It's turning out to be, like I say, I've had like 7 or 8 versions of what this is going to be. I think we're coming in for a concept. but I need to get that figured out this week, because I need to do, because I'm trying to do everything with carry-on, and you know, I'm traveling, so I'm planning on shopping and I'm planning on picking things up, so I need to have enough room for stitching and my clothing and shopping and getting it all back, and hopefully getting it all back without having to check in a suitcase, for a variety of reasons. We'll talk about my travel plans once I get back, and I can tell you all the things. It's a multi-city stop, and I've got, you know, and there's a reason for that, and things that I'm planning on doing on each of the cities, and it's, you know, so I'm looking forward to the traveling. It's a little bit of a, you know, get your act together, and June is almost upon us, so it has to get done. And I've decided that really this is, I need to make some of those serious decisions this week and get it figured out. You know, it's even things like I'm getting the plan of like it's the combination of what outfits am I wearing, and you know, one of the things that I'm planning on doing in one of the cities I'm stopping in, it's like, how dressy do I feel like I need to go? I don't want to do jeans. I don't want to look too casual. It doesn't have to be like super fancy. It's not that, but I feel like it needs to be something dressier, which doesn't necessarily tie in with the other things that I'm doing. So it's turning into a thing. So that's my planning adventure for this week, is get my sort of, it's the first 2 weeks of June, get my stitching plan actually figured out, and get it organized. So there's things like I talked before about one of the things that I'm planning on doing is I want to bring, move over some of the markup that I've done in Markup RXP from Jerusalem version 1 to Jerusalem version 2. There are a couple of other ongoing whips that I want to get them uploaded in and marked off. And so I've decided, you know, so that's a stitching activity that I'm planning on doing on the plane. So I want to make sure that I've got them uploaded into Markup RXP, that I'm happy with the upload, because then I can sit on the plane, watch some movie of some kind while I'm up there, while I'm, you know, up in the air for however long I'm there for. You know, so that's some of my stitching activities. I don't necessarily enjoy stitching on, like, physical stitching on planes, just because it's planes and things and germs, and I don't like setting up on a plane. But I wanted to have a stitching activity for while I was on the plane, and I'm really planning on having that be making sure that I've uploaded some of my existing whips into Markup RXP, and getting the markup of things that I've already done before I found out about Markup RXP, and do that while I'm on the plane, because I've got hours of plane time ahead of me. I've got hours of sitting in airport time. I am traveling internationally, so you know, it adds a whole set of hoopla into everything. So that's my planning for this week. I'm starting to friend saying, like, I really need to get on this. Yeah, what exactly I'm taking, how everything fits into the carry-on bag. So yeah, hopefully taking a carry-on bag and one personal item, and hopefully I can get the whole trip done in that, which is why my stitching has to be compact but enjoyable. I don't want to take, you know, I have, I think back to, I had gone to Mexico, I think it was Mexico, and I had taken some stitching with me, and so it was like a couple of sets of kits of bookmarks, where it's just like, just take something you could work on. And neither of those have been finished. It was okay. I didn't love working on them, and that showed me, it's like, even though I'm okay with the concept and what it was in the design, it wasn't something I was looking forward to, so I didn't really actually get the stitching out. So that's why I want to make sure on this trip, where I want to do some stitching, that I'm taking projects where I'm going, like, I want to start this. I'm looking forward to stitching on this. Let's get this together. So I need to get that planned out, get it firmed up, get those projects ready to go, figure out what I'm going to be taking with me, and get it sorted out into, will it fit into carry-on only. Anyway, so that's my struggle for this week, is get the first 2 weeks of June firmly planned out. Because then, you know, when I get back from my travels, then it'll be fine. I will be home, and then some of the other whips that I want to work on, they will be here, and the hard parts about them will be ready to go. So back, not next week, but the week after that. So probably the week of June 5th, I'll be talking about what I've got kitted up ready for my travels. We'll see how it goes. So with that, I hope everybody's had a good week. I hope, as always, that everybody is staying safe. I hope everybody's staying healthy. As always, thinking about the people of the Ukraine. I can't believe I'm still struggling that I'm talking about the situation in the Ukraine. Anyway, so I'm thinking about all of you, as well as actually some other things that are going on in the world that are also equally unpleasant. So stay safe, stay healthy, thinking and praying for the people of the Ukraine, and I hope that you're finding some time to do. I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching. I was catching up with a friend of mine who's a stitcher this week, who's kind of said hasn't really stitched this week, and I said, "Was like this weekend? It's the long weekend. Just pick something and start." Right? Do a little bit, you know, for a variety of reasons. Yeah, you haven't gotten a lot of stitching in. I bet that if you just sat down and started, it's a long weekend, you've got some time, that you would get hooked and you might actually work on 1, 2, or 3 projects just as long as you got started. So if you're in one of those camps where you're like, ugh, I'm too tired, ugh, I can't get this, I'd rather veg out in front of the television, do some television, put the television on. But maybe sit in your stitchy spot, because I bet you might have the dual benefit of feeling more relaxed if you got some stitching time in. If you can't because you're doing 27 other things and other life priorities are life priorities. But I hope you get some stitching in, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.